Dr. Gilbert, can you tell us a bit about homeopathy?
Homeopathy, in the layman's understanding, is about a theory compounded by a man called Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, who is a professor in Germany, who was not happy with the conventional methods being practiced at his day. So he started thinking about complementary medicine alternatively that could help people the same as the conventional medicine. And when they are falling, somebody has written a thesis on a Peruvian bark, which is quinine in the modern day language. And after writing the thesis and reading through what the person has written, he started putting a tiny bit of the quinine in water and then drinking it in a minute dose. So certain symptoms that he encountered, he put them on a paper. So he did that for a very long time with different plants. And then he came to a conclusion that different plants with different property can cure people. For example, if you have an onion and you chop them into pieces, whilst you're chopping them, you feel some form of a stench going into the eyes, which is very irritating. So he found out that if somebody is having a similar symptoms like runny nose, itchy eyes, and water coming from the eyes, you can give them maybe onions pack, and then the onions will clear their symptoms. So homeopathy is about similar, law of similars. When you see other symptoms in certain plants and people are suffering from that same pathology in a way, then it means the person will be cured. So homeopathy is basically dilution, a tiny amount of a plant being put in water and then being shaken for a very longer time. Then it's potentized. Then people will be using it as a remedy. That is what homeopathy is about.
Interesting. We mentioned about plants and studying about different plants. That doesn't mean that homeopathy is more or less about plant medicine, or if I could call it herbal medicine.
Homeopathy has got a branch of herbal medicine, but they are not the same. But we've got an aspect of homeopathy that we call organopathy. Organopathy has to do with looking at your organs, say the liver, the kidneys, and having a particular organ remedy. Like for me, I like using milk thistle because it's a very good liver medicine for all forms of liver ailments. We've got barberry bark, which is also very general remedy for kidney problems. We've got so many plant medicine for organ. But when we're talking about homeopathy has to do with a tiny or in a molecular structure going into water and being shaken for a very long time. And when it's shaking, it means it is the energy of the plant or the substance that you are using that is going into the water. And when it is water and alcoholic base. So homeopathy is not the same as herbal medicine in that respect, unless you are using it as an organ remedy, stimulating the kidneys or the liver or the heart. In the heart, we use hawthornberry, which is a very, very good tonic for the heart as a general. I personally think that conventional medicine is very good. It's excellent. It's been there for 200 years, but I'm challenging people to be open-minded about medicine as a overall in general. Rather, sticking to one regime only would not help people, because conventional medicine, in my opinion, deals with symptoms rather than the core issue of what is happening. Meanwhile, homeopathy also deal with your whole totality of being rather than just symptoms. So I think we should all be informed. I think there's lack of education going around at the moment, so people are a bit skeptical about how homeopathy can help. So I think it is about time people dive deep a little bit into other forms of medicine, learn the philosophy a little bit, and start using them to make results.
You mentioned about alternative medicine, and you also mentioned that people are not being educated about it. Probably homeopathy has not been there for too long.
Homeopathy has been around for the last 200 years. Hahnemann has been around, and his theories has been around for over 200 years. And I think it's the royal family's first line of medicine for common ailments. I think if they don't believe in what you're doing, they wouldn't use it at all. So homeopathy has been around for a very, very, very long time.
Interesting. So the royal family in the United Kingdom, Great Britain, is a first line of medication, and yet nobody talks to us about that.
Yeah, I think there is a controversy surrounding homeopathy because they think science cannot mix. Science doesn't bring out this validation. Science want to know how a tiny molecular structure of a plant can be shaken for a very long time, tiny bit of water, and can heal people. So the argument comes to about whether water holds memory. If it holds memory, then the homeopathic theory is true, or it is quantum physics. I think these are very, very deep science. They're very elementary levels, but in the primary level, it's very difficult to really explain what it is. So I will reserve my comment on that. Maybe in future we will go into whether water holds memory and quantum physics in relation to homeopathic remedies. But all that I can say now is that don't judge the book by the cover. You only need to try. For example, there's a simple remedy for injuries that is called arnica. Arnica is very good inflammatory remedy. For example, you get injured for a few minutes now and you took arnica and there's swelling, it subsides straight away within 10-15 minutes. I've seen it work over and over and over and over. Revival, and that convinces me a lot. I remember one time I was to go to work in the morning. I fell down off in the bus, coming down from the staircase, and then I fell down. I came home, I took some homeopathic tincture called Hypericum. The next morning everything was gone. My nails is healed properly. So I am convinced that homeopathy works, but in theory it's very really difficult to really define. So this is why science says we are not accepting it. It needs to be evidence-based. But these are some of the evidence-based issues we're talking about here.
But people have tested it.
So millions of people.
And are there not enough evidence for scientists to know that it is working?
Science, if it is not evidence-based by proving it scientifically, then it means science doesn't approve of it. Okay. So science is at the moment struggling to come to terms with how homeopathy works. It's been a major issue, a major debate for that.
Right. If I understand you well, scientists are struggling to understand how it works.
Yeah.
So in one way or the other, they know that it works.
Yeah.
But it is how it works that they cannot prove. That's what's stopping them to accept it.
Yeah.
Now, the fact that you mentioned that the royal family uses it, it tells me that it is good, because I don't believe the royal family will engage in anything without first of all making a deep research about it. Let's say somebody lack iron. Can homeopathy detect it?
Basically, anything. I'll ask you, how are you feeling? Oh, I'm having dizziness. Then I'll ask you, what times of the day do you have dizziness? How long have you have your dizziness? Is there any particular food that when you eat, it brings on the dizziness? If you're a lady, I'll ask you whether you're having a menstrual problems, or I'll ask whether you have a sickle cell anemia and things like that. I'll find out your eating habits to find out what's going on. So based on your answer, I'll check into a book that is called our repertory. It's like a form of a Bible that will rearrange your symptoms in there, and then if it is really an iron, it tells me the medicines that comes out to prove whether you have iron deficiency. So I don't need the name of a sickness. I need to know about your symptoms and how you feel about things rather than a name of a sickness. So the name of a sickness doesn't matter to me. It's the symptoms that really is important.
So what are some of the symptoms of iron deficiency?
Fatigues, not sleeping properly at night, pale skin, etc., etc. Sometimes you see the person feeling dizziness and sometimes completely sleepless at night, wakes up feeling really, really, really tired. And these are typical signs of a simple anemia that anybody could just pick up. Or maybe sometimes you look into the eyes to see whether there is blood or not. In Chinese medicine, we have tongue analysis that in practice, as you are being educated in homeopathic colleges, is one of the oldest tools that we use instead of the stethoscope to detect what is going on in the body. For example, when you have cracked skin on the tongue, heavy coated tongue, and little patches on the tongues, tells you exactly what's going on in somebody's body, tell you how the body is working. So these are little clues that gives you an idea of what is going on. It might not be perfect, but that is the old ways, and we still use them up to today to find out what's wrong with somebody.
Some people have never heard about homeopathy. They wouldn't know where and how to get these things.
First and foremost, there are so many people practicing homeopathy. There's homeopathic colleges around plenty in the UK, US, everywhere in the world. You need just to go online and then find out the nearest homeopath around. Just need to cook in homeopathic UK or homeopathy, and then so many things will come up. Then you fish out and goes to. There is a very good place in Great Ormond Street. I think we have a homeopathic hospital. We used to have homeopathic hospital there, and it's still the same up to today. There are so many lampposts around London That shows that they were using homeopathy maybe 50 years ago, 60 years ago. It was very prevalent at the time. So I think it has been suppressed by pharmaceutical companies at the moment. So nobody's coming out to talk about homeopathy in depth at the moment. So maybe we need to train more people in homeopathy. We can only train more people when people have heard about it. What I've noticed is that the more people question about the credibility of homeopathy, the more it's becoming popular. So the news is being spread at the moment because knowledge is in it at the moment. So slowly people are getting there. Especially black people are not familiar with homeopathy, especially black African origin. It's very difficult for them. But in the other world, like the Indians and then Chinese and then English and then a lot of the English speaking countries in Europe knows about homeopathy.
I'm glad you mentioned about the Black or Afro-Caribbean community. And one thing I've also noticed is that we don't really take care of our health. Most of the food that we eat are also oily or sugary and all those things. What is advice to people, especially the Afro-Caribbean and people who do not actually seek medical help until it gets worse?
I think it is very good point you're making. The reason why we are not informed is that in our curriculum in schools, we don't take personal eating habits into consideration. We don't teach even how to live at all in schools. We only teach you a subject that could make you money. But the primary basis of things that you need to be taught are in there. So I personally think that the first and foremost, being aware and conscious about eating should start from your own home. Then it projects to schools that we go to so that these things could be integrated. In fact, in France, around the school compound, I'm told you are not allowed to drink fizzy drinks. You only have to take fruits around school compounds. So it means that a lot of things are changing very, very, very slowly. Now, secondly, I've seen many churches now integrating into or incorporating health awareness once a year into their setting, which is a very, very good idea. One time I was in Ghana and I saw some Crunchy Ankara having a walk with all the church members, and after that, people from Kolebu came to check them to see how healthy they are or they are not. So I think health awareness is becoming very prevalent, but it's taking very slow pace. And I pray that God touches a lot of ministers out also to spread the gospel in relation to health as well, because it's very important.
So in simple words, we're saying that what goes into our bodies are very, very important.
Extremely very important. We eat too much cooked food, especially Ghanaians. So we are always very ill. And any Ghanaian who has lived here for more than 10 years, in quotes, one way or the other, is a diabetic in my opinion. If he's over the age 20 or 30, or they are pre-diabetic because of the food and the way we're doing. Having said that too, we put a lot of pressure on yourself running around, wanted to make a living, 2 or 3 jobs without not eating proper food, which is nutrients dense or packed foods. So this is also hammering our health. And then the weather also is not favoring us because we live in a hot climate and we've jumped into this place. So life is really difficult for us a lot here. It's difficult hanging on to our food. We live in Africa. The weather is hot, so when you are eating those starchy or carbohydrate carbs food, it's all right, but not here at the moment.
Doctor, like you said earlier, we Africans, probably we don't get the basic education or awareness of our health. And we believe that by working hard and getting a lot of money, especially those in the diaspora, sending money home for some projects is paramount to the way we live. What message do you have Africans, especially those in the diaspora and even those on the continent, in that part of the Caribbeans, are concerning our health in relation to homeopathy?
I think Black African origins, we have lots of graduates there, but they still don't care. I think we should become pioneers, some of us who are very inclined and aware of health benefits, so that we should try and form association whereby we could spread the news without actually making any money out of it, just creating an awareness for people. I think one of the basic things that we can use is the church as a tool. African origins, where they have groups that cater for people, should be one of our primary concerns, actually looking into them and then visiting them to create an awareness. And then maybe we should set up a group that will have an online form of a forum that we use that platform to propagate the gospel of homeopathy and nutritional based issues with our fellow co-Africans who are here as well. And I'm sure when we do that, a lot of people who have got the technical know-how will patronize. We need to have that awareness from the grassroots level, and then it will spread everywhere. I think that is my advice.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I believe this information you are giving to us is going to impact a lot of lives.
Thank you very much.